the answer to this question. Should she stay or should she go?
Oh,
Sheen Shaheen should go. I think that's the correct answer.
well, unfortunately, all the people who should go on the statewide level are she's. How misogynist is that?
Yes, evil war on women.
They just happen to be Democrats.
Welcome back to GrokTALK. My name is Steve McDonald. I'm here with Skip Murphy. Mike Rogers and Ed Nail has joined us because we have a guest on the phone, and we haven't had her on for a few months, but some things have recently happened within the last month or two, generated out of North Carolina, and she's probably the person with the pulse, finger on the pulse. Susan Myrick, welcome to GrokTALK. How are you today?
I'm good. Thank you very much, and good morning.
Good morning. Well, you guys made some news down there in the state of North Carolina with the cross-check results. And
we did.
Why don't you give us a quick overview of what went on, and then we'll go from there.
Well, first I'll set it up and tell you how it actually came about. In 2013, the North Carolina legislature passed a landmark election reform bill that included many different provisions, and we can go through a few of those today too. But in that bill was a direction from the legislature to the State Board of Elections to join a cross-checking program with other states. It was just a little piece added to the bill, and they also directed the State Board to improve the accuracy of voter registration lists at the same time. As a result, we have a new State Board of Elections, too, because we did get a new governor from a different party in the last 2012 general election, so it changed the makeup of the State Board of Elections and all the County Board of Elections. And that new makeup hired a new director. That director went right to work, and they joined the Interstate Voter Registration Cross-Check Program. And that program is a voluntary program between states, and there are 28 states that participated in this last 2014 check. And what the result of that was for North Carolina was 765 voters with an exact match of first and last name, date of birth, and Social Security number were registered in North Carolina and another state and voted in both states.
It's that Social Security number that is the linchpin, isn't it?
That's the linchpin, because there's a bigger number after that. It's 35,750 voters with the same first and last name and date of birth were registered in North Carolina and another state and voted in both states. Now, that big number are without Social Security numbers because not every state includes Social Security numbers. So that's the big news. And the numbers get bigger as you go down the line. You get into the hundreds of thousands of people who are registered in two states that have the same last name, same date of birth, and the Social Security number, the last four digits of Social Security number is the same, and that number is 155,692. They just didn't happen to vote in those two states. So that was big news. And on top of that, outside of that cross-check program, they did find 50,000 new death records that had not previously been provided to the State Board of Elections. So the local counties weren't able to go through their voter registration rolls and remove the dead people. 81 deceased voters that had voter activity after they died from the 2012 election. And they say dead people don't vote. But, of course, we know different.
Do we all believe in ghosts?
I think we do.
Who are you going to call?
Don't they put Democrat pre-filled ballots in the caskets with them?
So, Ed, our vote fraud expert.
Welcome, Sue. It's been,
hey, Ed, how are you?
This has been some trip, hasn't it? Since we first started.
Absolutely.
Well,
it's amazing.
Well, down in your state, you had same-day voter registration.
Right, during early voting, not on election day, but during early voting,
right.
We did.
So you had that, and you have, I think you have of your counties, 3 counties excel at having non-resident voters or dead voters or people registering from highway tunnels. Does that sound familiar?
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. more than 3. I would say all 100 counties have bad addresses.
Right.
And that is by design. I'll be real honest with you. You know, Ed, I worked for one of the county board of elections for several years, and we were instructed to allow people to register at wherever they said they laid their head.
I love that laid their heads part of it. You know, that's
Yeah.
If you're resting in your vehicle and you're a little sleepy and you lay your head on the headrest, apparently you can vote from your vehicle. It just,
That's right.
You know, we have to get away from this these fuzzy definitions of things. A vote is for
Right.
real. Once you've cast a vote, it doesn't get uncast. We don't have provisional
Exactly.
ballots here.
Well, you
So-
know, you know, if you're in a Democrat vote slum, it's kind of like in the streets of New York. When you stop and rest your head for a moment, some scruffy urchin will come up to the window, and instead of cleaning your windshield, they'll thrust a ballot form in your face.
Now, Sue, was it were college communities key to this, like they are in New Hampshire? Do you see a lot of that?
Well, I would imagine that's a big part of it, but what I got an extra spreadsheet from Kansas, the Secretary of State in Kansas. They're actually the ones that started. They were with the 3 other states that started this
Right.
consortium back in the day, and what I saw was the biggest numbers of duplicate voter registrations were from North Carolina, in South Carolina, and Virginia. So I couldn't say, because we haven't looked at the actual data and we haven't been provided that yet about the college students, but I will say in North Carolina we have 2 very big communities that are bordered by other states. One is Charlotte,
Right.
which is right down there on the South Carolina border. So people live in Charlotte, work in South Carolina, or live in South Carolina and work in Charlotte. And then up in the Northeast where there's a big beach community, but Norfolk, Virginia is right there with the Naval Air Station. So people live and work in both places. That's where I'm seeing the biggest number of duplicates.
Well, you can imagine
And-
here in New Hampshire, we're surrounded by Massachusetts, Connecticut, Vermont, Maine, and Canada. We have Canadian voters that vote in Nashua. So,
Yeah. Isn't Columbus another one of those bi-state cities as well? Have I got my cities wrong?
No, I don't. Columbus, Georgia?
No. There's another big city on the border of North and South Carolina, right?
Well, Columbia, South Carolina.
Yeah.
Is that what? Probably. Yeah, that's close enough to Charlotte that they could. That would be an easy commute. Absolutely.
Okay.
But you know, it's just too easy. You could spend in the old days in North Carolina 17 days, your days traveling back up and down the highways and back roads and voting constantly until Election Day.
we have, I think we have a Columbia, North Carolina voter here in New Hampshire, Alexandra Perez Caballero. She works for the police department in Columbia. She voted here in New Hampshire when she was working for Organizing for America. That's one of the ones we tracked down. I think you helped us. I think you guys helped us find her voter history in North Carolina. It was Columbia, I'm pretty sure.
Columbia?
Columbia, yeah. She works for a police department there, secretary or something.
Okay.
And you wonder, when these people come up here to campaign for OFA, she was voting out of the same house, private home, as Elena Biden, the Kalick residence on Steinmetz Avenue in Manchester. So you're wondering, the nice part about this is how it branches out. Who sent Alexandra Perez Caballero to New Hampshire to stay in the same private home as Elena Biden, the vice president's niece? Who did that? So
there's a network. There's a network.
That's what our goal here. We have several goals to get some national press, which we're doing with your help. I mean, you turned me on to Jim
Simpson.
Jim Simpson.
Great.
He's been fabulous. I've been sending him stuff on a regular basis. So Jim's going to do an article. He apparently is trustworthy, unlike John Fund from the Wall Street Journal, who I wasted my time with. I'll never give him anything ever again. But if we can leap over the dead tree media in New Hampshire and get some national press like you guys are getting it's going to really stir up voters. The next time they go to the polls, they're going to be a little more suspicious of things, and they're going to know how to track it. And the other part of this is Organizing for America and these community organizing groups and political organizations that send their people to the states, like your state, because I believe you're a what do they call it, one of the states that was very important.
Swing state?
Swing state, yeah. Your state was a swing state as well in 2012, right?
Well, they said we were going to be, but we didn't. We weren't really, and they had good reason to say we weren't going to be, because Barack Obama only won North Carolina by 14,000 votes in 2008. So anybody from the outside could look at it and say, North Carolina is turning. We can see that with this election. Barack Obama lost by over 100,000 votes in 2012 in North Carolina.
That's because they all came to New Hampshire.
Yeah.
That's going to be sent them away. But honestly, I believe a lot of that is because we ramped up our, and I'm not talking about inside security, I'm talking about the people that looked at our elections and said, there is something not right here. And there was a big push for poll observers, and they, these were all volunteers. They got them trained to understand what the laws were, and they got them in the polls so that there could be eyes in there to look for problems within the polls. And I believe that's really what turned North Carolina.
And this cross-check has got to be a real slap in the face to the people who've been able to play with your elections for all those years. Once you got a Republican legislature and a good governor, then your problems are pretty much 80% solved, right?
Well, I would go a little bit less than that. You've got the same people there. We've got 3 lawsuits pending on our new voter law, NAACP, League of Women Voters, and then, of course, Eric Holder's Justice Department.
Right.
So we're not over it yet, and also we have to contend with rogue Supreme Court justices like one that we have here. That Hans, if you all know Hans von Spakovsky, he actually wrote an article about Sherry Beasley, an associate Supreme Court justice who spoke to a Democratic Party fundraising dinner and actually said about our voter ID law, a lot of folks are confused about voter ID, and the confusion is by design. And that is a Supreme Court justice. So we have a lot of hurdles. I wouldn't put it at 80%. I'd say 60%. And we have to navigate through the judges out there that are very questionable.
We had a stroke of luck here in New Hampshire. We had this nincompoop judge named John Lewis, and he went to Columbia University, got his law degree, studied in Paris for a few years. So he became a Superior Court judge in New Hampshire. So I guess you'd get all that education, international travel, so you can be a Superior Court judge in New Hampshire for $75,000 a year. What he was a political activist, and we had to deal with him at the municipal level. He would protect crooked cops. He would let a town win everything. Our taxpayers could win nothing in front of this guy. The last win we had with him was a Mexican standoff. But he has a very low opinion of female attorneys and expressed that publicly. And he was retired early, which is fabulous because he left this case called Hannah Rivers versus New Hampshire hanging in the air. The Supreme Court really is kind of in a bind trying to take that case and finish it because it was he just left. And I don't know if any other judge in New Hampshire is as crooked as Judge Lewis or as stupid as Judge Lewis to sign what the ACLU and the League of Women Voters gave him, which is called the enactment of the mobile domicile voter case. He calls college students mobile domiciled. So that was the term
don't let
used.
the people in North Carolina hear that.
Yeah, I know. It spreads
loving that.
It spreads like a disease, doesn't it? But he's gone, Judge Lewis. We call him Screwy Lewis, and we were actually here at CNHG. We were very quiet for about 2 years because he tried to bag us for $30,000 in legal fees because we challenged a town that prevented our photographer from taking pictures at a town meeting, basically, that was being videotaped on cable TV. So, I mean, that's how pathetic this is. We had a lawyer took this case for us, pro bono, and we still lost, and he tried to flip that and have us pay $30,000 in legal fees, and we beat him basically. But he's gone now, so New Hampshire, maybe the Supreme Court will take a lesson from Screwy Lewis that you should just follow the law. Our law says you have to be domiciled in New Hampshire to vote here for in the ward or town. It's Part 2, Article 11.
You have to live someplace when we need to get it. We're going to take 60 seconds. Hang on the line, and we'll talk some more about what you guys passed down there. Okay?
Great.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Rich Gerard, host of Gerard at Large in the Morning, the Manchester area's only locally owned, locally operated, focused, and interested, riveting radio show, heard live every Monday through Friday from 6 to 9 on 90.7 FM WLMW, New Hampshire Family Radio, and available 24/7 live or archived at GerardAtLarge.com. Be sure to tune in.
Senator Jean Shaheen said, if you like your current health plan, you can keep it. That's not true, Senator. 22,000 New Hampshire citizens have been kicked off their insurance plans. Hospitals in Rochester, Concord, and Portsmouth, they aren't allowed to provide care under the exchange. Senator, you were wrong in your comments. You should apologize for your misleading remarks. I'm calling Senator Shaheen at 750-3004 and telling her I want my doctor back. You should too.
Paid for by SaberPac.org, not authorized by any candidate or candidate committee.
All right, we're back with Susan Myrick from Civitas Institute in North Carolina. You go ahead, Ed.
Sue, we're going to eventually, hopefully, get a new legislature and a Republican governor that won't veto photo ID or clean election laws here in New Hampshire. Could you tip us off to some of the most effective statutes you guys have adopted? The ones that the left is screaming the most about would probably be the ones, correct?
Ones that the lawsuits are out there pending for. And, of course, the first one is require the photo ID in order to vote. That's the biggest one. But they're also very upset with our elimination of in-person or same-day registration. Interesting, I've been called by several college newspapers in the last couple of weeks, and they've been focusing on that in their stories. But when we start talking about it, and I start answering their questions, they start going, oh, yeah. Because they go, well, what are you going to tell students when they find out they can't register to vote?
Vote at home.
When they go to vote, and I say, well, because those students don't even know they could vote and register at the same time. They're going to know what you tell them, and I believe a lot of the consternation from the other side is we're making it harder for them to get out the vote. That's it.
Right.
And it's costing them more money. It's not about them looking out for the voters. They're looking out for themselves. And the voters need to understand that. It's not about them, except for who they vote for, of course. But and also, we shortened early voting. Do you all have early voting there?
No, we don't.
In-person early voting?
No. Thank goodness. That's the one thing we don't have.
Don't do it.
Yeah.
Don't do it. I do vote early. It is convenient, and that's about all I can say about it. It has not increased voter turnout. When they pushed for this, the beginning of early voting, it was all about increasing turnout. But, of course, it has not increased the turnout. But we shortened it from 17 days ahead of the election to 10, with a little caveat that we had to keep the same number of hours, which was ridiculous. But almost 40 of our 100 counties asked to shorten the hours or to lessen the hours this time, and they got approval by the state board.
Oh,
so, hopefully they're looking at what they really need. You know, you have some counties that have 600,000 voters, and some counties that have 16,000 voters, and it's time to stop treating them the same because they're not the same.
Right.
Susan, this is Skip.
And then we also, and this is something that sounds really little, but it bothers the left a lot for some reason. They had instituted a law that allowed 16 and 17-year-olds to register to vote.
Yeah, we have a push for that here from Jim Splain.
Do you know why?
No, so they can use them on campaigns, or what's? What's the deal?
I'm assuming, and I'll tell you this: we've always allowed 17-year-olds to vote, to register to vote if they're going to be 18
Right.
by Election Day, and even at 17, if they're going to be 18 by Election Day, they can vote in the primary. But the 16 and 17-year-old thing, we can only guess that it is they just have a way to reach those young people to indoctrinate
So
them,
get
to
them on their
begin the
list.
indoctrination early.
Yeah.
And my boss calls it the pedophilia get out the vote list. Because
So in New Hampshire,
That's perfect.
our Democrat Party chairman, let me see.
How are you going to say this delicately?
How can I say this delicately? Yes, he's on He's on YouTube. He's famous on YouTube. So if you want to see a picture or a video of our Democrat Party chairman playing with his zipper on YouTube, it's findable.
Yeah.
sounds like some of our Democratic Party officers.
Yeah, just go to Granite
But
Grok.
truly, if you were to go to a high school and ask for the list of all of the 16-year-olds in the school with their addresses, what do you think they would say to you?
Absolutely not.
They would probably send the sheriff to your
Correct.
house.
Yeah.
And when they started registering these kids, they put their names and addresses in a data file and put it
Great.
on the website.
Yep.
And they'll get emails,
So-
and they'll start sending them stuff,
Sure.
and absolutely, yeah.
Absolutely.
Invitations.
Absolutely.
Skip's been begging to
those
ask
are
you.
the-
Skip's been begging to ask you a question. We got to get it out, or
Okay.
he's going to explode.
Okay,
Go ahead.
Hi, Susan. You were talking about the early voting to give people more time, and you said the perfect thing. It has not raised the voting percentages.
It has not.
Is there any clause in the law that says, and if it doesn't, it would be repealed? Because once again, it just goes to the government mantra. Once a program starts, it never seems to stop, even if it never accomplishes its main goal.
No, there is no clause in that law, but you've actually given me a great idea. I think we should amend that law to give it another couple of years and to see if that the get out or the turnout has increased. I was on a radio show with somebody from the other side a couple of years back. He's the one that he was the architect of most of these laws. And I will tell you, the same-day registration, early voting, most of the 16 and 17-year-old people registering to vote have been instituted in the last couple of years. These are not laws that have been out there forever. You could see them being created as we got closer to 2008, and same-day registration began in the primary of 2008. 16 and 17-year-olds in 2009, these are really new laws, and they're there for a reason by the party that was trying to make our elections chaos, and that's what they actually ended up doing. Nobody could say at the end of the day, at the end of an election, are all these votes legal? Nobody could say yes. Nobody could say no.
Yeah, it just seems
It was
to be
chaos.
It just seems to be the continuance of the progressives trying to push politics into every single area of our lives, and they just can't seem to leave anybody, no matter what the age, alone. You have to be involved.
That's right. And really, the registration part is they want universal registration. That's their end game. They want everybody who is renting a house or buying a house or paying taxes to be automatically put on a voter registration roll.
in their database.
In their database.
Yeah,
that's
right.
what Obamacare
And they
is
don't
doing.
care. They don't care if you're an American citizen. We'll work that out later.
Yeah.
We just want everybody on that list.
I think people are unaware how specific the left's database on voters in any specific state is. I mean, if you go, I helped a guy register kids to play soccer one time, and he says, "Scratch your name down here," and I put my name down. Next thing you know, I'm getting stuff from the school just because I was a helper registering kids. So I'm getting stuff about the bond and how much help they need, and so I'm on their list just because I showed up. I think people will be surprised how many different things you're involved in during the day, what church you belong to, almost anything, your age, your demographics, all puts you in a certain part of their master list. And I think people should learn about this and be more careful about how
I agree
the
with
left
you.
gets a hold of their information.
I agree with you. They use it all. I know. I heard from friends of mine that it had started in 2010 or 2011. You know, a neighbor of theirs asked if they were into gardening, and they started a little gardening club in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
I don't know if you all have heard about this or not, but and it not only gardening, but I had a friend that was into the organic milk and things like that. And so they joined little clubs that would help, you know, with information and getting things that were hard to get. And about a month or 3 weeks before the election, they got emails, and I have a couple of them that said, you know, we've gotten to know each other over the last couple of years, and we've enjoyed gardening or whatever. And I don't usually talk about politics. And both of these letters that I got,
the same thing.
I don't usually talk about politics. I don't, but I feel compelled to with what has been happening. And Barack Obama, I'm not a big fan of his. I don't like him because of this and this, but the way, and there would be some hook, you know, the war on women or whatever, and it turned into, friend, join with me to vote for Barack Obama.
All right, Susan, we got a scoop. We got about 20
Okay.
seconds left. Contact information?
It is nccivitas.org. Go there, and you can find almost anything you need to see about voter fraud and elections in North Carolina.
Thank you, Sue. We'll be in touch.
Thank you so much.
Thank
you guys,
you.
you have a great weekend.
You too.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right, this is GrokTALK. I'm Steve McDonald here with Ed Nail, Mike Rogers, and Skip Murphy. We'll be right back with Ed Nail on GrokTALK.
When asked whether she still supports Obamacare, Senator Jeanne Shaheen said,
"Yes, I do continue to support the law. We're beginning to see some positive results."
how can Senator Shaheen say we're seeing positive results when 22,000 of our neighbors have already lost their health insurance? What's worse, the Boston Globe reports the state's only health insurance provider radically reduced the number of hospitals in their network, forcing some people to drive over an hour for lab work, even when there's a hospital within a few miles of their home. When pressed about lack of access, Shaheen said,
There are some hospitals that are not covered, unfortunately, and I certainly hope that's going to change.
Jeanne Shaheen promised us we could keep our doctors and our healthcare coverage. Now she hopes we can get to a local hospital? Call Senator Shaheen at 603-647-7500. Tell her we need more than hope. We need leadership. Paid for by Citizens for a Strong New Hampshire.
This is a coalition of New Hampshire taxpayers. We're located at 8 North Main in Concord, New Hampshire. This is a repository for all things conservative and municipal. So if you have a problem in your town, your school, your budget committee, the right to know law, and now at the top of our list is voter fraud. You have a tip for us, some information for us, you want to join or help us out, cnht.org.
Grok TV.